I think we're recording.
Yep.
Greetings, everybody. This is Mary Geddry, and my guest is Geddry Farmer, who's announced he's going to be vying for position one.
Yep. Position one
of the Coos County Commission, currently held by incumbent Bob Main. Yep. And I would like to start with the fact that, in my opinion, this is probably one of the most important commission races since I've lived here in 2003, because we have this kind of unholy alliance between Bob Main and Rod Taylor, an insurrectionist and far-right extremist. Bob seems to share 90% of those sentiments, and they're more focused on ideology, like passing prayer requirements, or COVID resolution, and which even Rod Taylor acknowledged that it was, toothless, that it really,
it's gestural stuff.
It's political theater, and it, I guess, makes the local MAGA crowd happy. But so share with us your story and why you want to do this. And I know in your statement, one of the things that you said that resonates with me is that you think you can bring a new skill set to the commission. And I think we need some skills. Go ahead.
So a little about my background. Geddry Farmer. I was born here in Coos Bay. I live probably 5 blocks from where my folks lived when I was born, and we've had family out here since 1952. Grandpa was stationed at Shutters Creek when it was an Air Force base. Funny enough, talking to Bob one time, he used to play in the woods up near the base when my grandpa was stationed there. Mm-hmm. My background, after high school, graduated North Bend, took us some time off, and then went into the Navy. I was a personnel specialist, so payroll, accounting, contracts, deployment of personnel, and I did remedial fitness training for some individuals. After getting out of that, took my GI Bill, I came back and went to SWAC for a year before transferring to Portland State to get my 4-year degree. It's a bachelor's of science in sociology, minored psychology. Mm-hmm. Came back from that, worked for a trucking company for a little bit as the owner's assistant, and then from there went into mental health, which is where I wanted to be, and supported employment services to folks with mental illness or persistent mental illness. Folks may not know this, but there's a program that runs in Coos County, and it has on average 60 clients at any given time that are individuals with disabilities who want to work. Frequently individuals who are homeless or have been homeless who want to work. So that's it. It's an obscure field, though, so people don't know it's there. Right. After doing that for about 2 years and getting on the city council in 2016, I was asked about going to Bay Area Enterprises to operate that. It's a nonprofit. Had a little bit of a financial issue, turned that around and expanded it from operating just in Coos County to now operating from Brookings to Lincoln City, and having as much of a surplus as it had a deficit when I came in. So it turned right around by growing out of its predicament, essentially. And that's what I think Coos County can do. I think it can grow out of its problems if it invests the effort, the time, and the modifications to codes and planning. Okay. So I've served on the housing action team, housing needs analysis, housing production strategies group to revamp codes. Outside of that, I was a board member for the League of Oregon Cities. So I had the opportunity to speak to the governor once about mental health, collaborate with the 241 counties in Oregon. And that was kind of parallel to while I was at Bay Area Enterprises. From there, some folks approached me about moving towards Oregon Coast Community Action, or ORCA. Mm-hmm. So at the time I left Bay Area Enterprises, they had gone from about 50 to 60 personnel to 90 going over 100, and their revenues had grown by 30 or 40%. So I thought, well, I've done what I was going to do here, took the opportunity to go to Orca, suddenly had 200 employees and a $19 million budget,
Yeah.
100 and plus different funding streams, similar to government really in that regard.
Yeah.
Actually, governments tend to have fewer funding streams than Orca does.
Right.
And then that's what I did for a while. And when I had things about where I thought they were healthy enough, I stepped out, take some time off, and start my consulting business on the side.
Okay. So, well, I mean, to me, that sounds actually pretty impressive, particularly the fact that, the county has a lot of funding sources, although of its $140,000 budget, probably $140 million budget, $100 million of that is probably state and federal grants, which are obviously dedicated.
Your discretionary fund, I believe, is 13 million. So everything else is somehow earmarked. They have an amazing treasurer, though, so that's good.
Yes, that's true. So one of the things that's facing the county right now, as I'm sure you're aware, is it's poor. It's not receiving adequate funding. A levy to bring in more funds for the sheriff's department failed. And there's several. There was actually good buy-in, I think, in the beginning, but it started to decline, and so they recently had to tap into some reserve money just to make ends meet, and
about 3.7 mil, right?
3.7 million, and there, which was probably half the reserve. Don't quote me on that.
Yeah.
But obviously an unsustainable practice. Now I know that Rod Taylor is of a mind that we ought to be able to just tap into timber revenue, and I'm not sure he even understands what he's saying when he does that, but he's also feels that the Coos Bay Wagon Road, which is got some old growth timber. It's also a reliable carbon sink, and that and the Elliott are some of the only remaining real forests in the county.
Well, the Elliott is state land, I believe.
The Elliott is state, but I'm just saying that they're real forests. They're not monocultured tree farms like most of. So we have 1 million square acres. 667,000 of them are deemed large tract timber, and so they receive very favorable tax rates. You can have an acre of land with $250,000 worth of timber on it, and you're only paying $400 a year.
I would bet part of what he's talking about is a project that Bob had worked on, and I followed a little, was a lawsuit against the state, where Lynn County courts found that the state owed 13 rural counties about $1.1 billion, and that made its way to the Oregon Court of Appeals. 3 judges heard it, none that are from rural areas or live there at all. They shot it down, and the Oregon Supreme Court refuses to hear it.
Right. I think they're also. I agree with you. I think that's part of what they're banking on, and then they're also banking on somehow acquiring access to the wagon road, which is federal land.
That part doesn't make a lot of sense, and even if it did, say they decided they own this now, they're going to sell it to somebody who would buy it. I don't know, because they're going to know that's stupid. But you
Well,
still have only generated a blip in the tank. Like,
well,
it's not a
they're,
solution in the long run.
yeah, their plan is to log it.
Yeah, but you get a timber cut and it takes 5 to 10 years to regrow. It's just not, even from the standpoint of the hypothetical, if they did it, it's not a fix.
Well, with a budget, an annual budget as big as ours, and as you know, Rod wants to do away with state and federal grants because there's strings attached.
Yeah, there's some, I heard rumblings out of some of the staff there that he and Bob have been collaborating
Yeah,
outside of meetings about how they're going to reject the $1.9 million for housing services.
yeah.
So that's a conversation that some of the staff at the county have mentioned that they're already having outside of public meetings.
Well, and that's something that needs to be brought to the attention of OGEC, the Oregon Government Ethics Commission, because they're in, and even this COVID thing, there's evidence,
Yeah,
that they colluded.
I mean, the COVID one, you can look at it and feel like that's right. The other one hasn't happened yet, so
Yeah,
I will say allegedly, but
right.
yeah, I just found out about the 1.9 yesterday, so.
Oh, yeah. I can see that being a problem, obviously. I do know that Rod inherited basically all of Melissa's liaison assignments, which included the clerk's office, the elections division.
Yeah. Well, they need to update that actually, because it's currently showing him as the president of the Association of Counties, and he's
I know
definitely.
they haven't made.
But I let them know about that today, so hopefully
Okay.
that'll get fixed, because that is definitely not the case.
That's true. That's true. He's taking credit for all of her accolades and hard work.
Yeah,
And,
could be. The bio is still listed as Melissa's too, so I think somebody probably made an oversight on that one.
so let's say you're able to pull this off.
Yep.
Ideally, you should pull it off in the primary. Just saying.
That'd be the goal.
But and then you take office. What would your next plan be?
I mean, the earliest plan has to be to go through development codes to make sure that they are as available as possible, particularly for the housing side. I think one of the great things that holds our region back is just the inability for anybody to be housed. Because we can expand the tax base by bringing in individuals who have income levels in general. Like just in Coos Bay, we're 100 or more units short. That's 100 or more units that could be tax generating.
Right. Right. Well, you talked about helping, that the homeless issue is a big problem here, and I'm actually not current on what the point in time count was. Yeah, what it was this year. Are you familiar with that?
Yeah, Orca was in charge of conducting those and working with partners to make sure they got done. I was out till midnight actually that night doing the point in time count. And it is a big issue that I think it would definitely be one of the areas I focus in, because I'm already doing it as a counselor, but
right.
Folks don't always know how much money the county is bleeding just in staff time because of the severity of the homelessness issue and the severity of the mental health issue.
Right.
Right now, if a person goes to, if somebody is having a mental health episode and they go to the hospital, if they make it to the hospital can't hold them unless the person says they want to be held regardless of their mental state. So the individual is let back out. That takes more police time.
Sure.
And then another call comes in and we're losing another deputy again.
So I understand that. I know that's one of the reasons why cities like even Portland have come together, or Eugene I think has Emerald City or something that they've got some little tiny home communities that they've developed for houseless people, and that there's rules, for being allowed to be there, and
Yeah.
there's also a pathway to ownership as well, I think.
That's one of the challenges that I've talked to the Oregon Health and Community Services and the Department of Land Conservation and Development about. They have put restrictions around how we can create more housing, but we keep saying the state give out money to rehouse individuals, but without them supporting the housing projects, like 100-unit development for North Bend got rejected this cycle, along with 2 other developments. And that's the importance of the interaction with the state, is the area can't grow out of the problem if it's not being allowed to do so.
Gotcha. Sorry. Turn that off. I have to share with you and everybody else who's going to watch this. I'm caring for my 94-year-old father.
Oh.
And I did tell him that I was going to be recording, but he's calling me. But I think I see him on the camera. He hasn't fallen over, so he can wait a little. He can wait just a little bit. So one of the reasons, though, that these communities are putting together these places is because when they centralize the houseless, then it's easier to get the services to them that they need, because they don't have to go crawling around under bridges or whatever.
I've done that before when I worked with mental health. There was a wooded trail that you could only access one of my clients' camps by rope. And it was much easier when they were just in a single location.
Yeah. Let me ask you a question. It's a little off topic, but there's that. I saw the neighborhood watch folks asked you recently.
Yeah.
And I find that kind of personal, malicious stuff. I don't know. Maybe to me,
it wasn't terribly surprising. This is the only group, though, that's kicked me out. I mean, I've had similar conversations on other platforms that are more less welcoming to my work than others.
Yeah.
And the conversation we were having was between myself and an admin regarding the Devereaux Center, and they were bringing up some things and started to get towards, well, they're not a mental health provider, and here's the NT code. It's a taxonomy code for the type of nonprofit. So I put in what that code is in full, because they'd only used part of it, and if you take part, then it doesn't fit. But if you take what the actual code is, it works.
Yeah.
And explained how that worked. The medication management, unless you know the doctor, you're not going to know what's going on with their meds.
Right.
And some other things. And then, then I went to look because I wasn't seeing anybody talking to me, and I had been removed. I thought, well, there's got to be follow-up questions, because somebody said thank you for some information I provided, and nope, I got removed.
So in general, though, I mean, I have mixed. Well, I'm not really a fan of that technique when you're going and rousting people in the middle of the night, and then complaining because they're wandering the streets at 2 a.m.
Yeah, that's one of those strange thoughts. If we're just unpleasant, they'll go away. The county has had homeless for ages, and I partly got into what I do because I see the people I went to high school with on the street. I know they're local. I went to school with them, or my family went to school with them.
Right.
So this narrative that all of them are from just somewhere else is always a little frustrating.
Right.
But a lot of the folks, like I said, this is the first time I've been removed from a group. Most folks even when they're far off from my position, they're fine to talk to. I mean, I've worked with Republican House representatives and Democratic senators. As long as somebody wants to be part of a solution or
Yeah.
learn, then
Yeah.
it works.
So it's kind of interesting. 100 years ago, I was a registered Republican. I think because my mother was a Republican, and I didn't really even understand the difference. I just didn't know what it was. And then I think it was in 1992 when Ross Perot, who I had zero interest in Ross Perot, but I was so disgusted with both the other parties that I became unaffiliated. And I voted for Ross Perot only because it was the most powerful vote I could make to express my dissatisfaction with the two-party thing. But and obviously I don't know how much you know about me, but I'm couldn't be farther from a Republican. I'm pretty far left
I
of
think I've
center.
always been listed non-affiliated. I've never been involved. Actually, until I ran for council in 2016, the most political I'd been is I was on the library board. I just hadn't involved myself with it. I've always been listed non-affiliated. Folks say if you don't vote for one or the other of these two people, you wasted your vote. But in my perspective, you've only wasted your vote if you allow yourself to be forced to vote for inadequacy.
Yeah. To me, the lesser of two evils argument is, evil is still evil, and 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 I would say, though I've never been a Democrat. I I do sometimes donate to Democrats. Can't think of the last time. I'm not sure I've ever donated to a Republican, but
I've never donated to anybody, and I've never endorsed anybody. It's wow.
Anyway, I see, that a lot of the MAGA right are working hard to get into nonpartisan positions. We see them on school boards, transit boards, port commissions, county commissions, and city council seats and so forth. There's a big push on that side, and I know that there's a lot of people on my side of the fence, the liberal side of the fence, that really want to push back.
I think it's an indication of the broader problem in the nation right now is nothing that's listed non-party is still non-party. We're seeing pushes to get folks of a particular party in right now, and we see a counter push to get other folks of a different party in right now. I think one of my benefits is that I'm not in anybody's party, and I don't plan to be. I just do what I think is going to be the best plan, and that's what I do.
I feel that way too. I can very happily criticize Joe Biden over something or other. I have to say, I didn't vote for him. I certainly didn't vote for the other guy.
I voted for Buttigieg.
But I voted green. But yeah, but I think I'm actually pleasantly surprised with Biden's performance. I kind of viewed him as like a radical centrist, and I'm like, you kind of don't stand for anything, in this. But
I don't bother much with the federal stuff because right now, just my experience in the systems and in the policies, anything that makes it to the state is got an equal chance of just getting messed up on its way in.
Yeah.
Like I saw at one point, the state took 5 months to get Orca the money to pay people's energy and housing bills that needed
Oh,
paid now.
right.
And then leadership, I want to say half of the offices up there in Salem right now have interim directors or brand new ones. Last I
Yeah.
heard, they can't even find a general for our National Guard. They're going to have to pull somebody out of state because nobody wants the job after the way it's been handled.
Right. Well, I mean, and it gives fuel to the fire that government is bad, and so there's this. It's kind of a quandary because there's this big anti-government movement, and yet as a democracy, which I'm all for democracy, that literally means that you're self-governing. The people govern
Someone will
themselves.
always be making the decisions. I mean,
Well,
somebody may not
sure.
call it a government, but somebody with resources will make the decisions.
The well, yes, in more ways than one. I mean, one of the reasons I've never been a Democrat is because I see them both as corporatist parties. They both accept corporate money and are obviously influenced by corporate lobbyists and so forth. So, but getting back to Coos County, I think one of the complaints. You all right?
Sorry, still a
It's
little
okay.
sick.
Oh no! So you caught a cold or COVID or?
Probably a cold. Imagine my girlfriend at some point is going to come running in and jam a stick up my nose to find out, but we'll know later.
Yeah. But I think that the like one of the things that you did, which I thought was very impressive on the city council, was that you were able to get the pride flag up for 10 minutes.
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
and it's and I saw a post by somebody who helped get that revoked by the council, who had posted something, and he said some patriotic activists were able to get the pride flag removed. Now, I don't know what was patriotic about that, especially when you consider that it's a federally recognized designation. Unlike, the Baptist flag isn't federally recognized. The Gadsden flag isn't federally recognized.
Yeah, there's a lot of irony in those ones. Like the Gadsden flag, it's the anti-government flag. You want the government to fly the anti-government flag. You put it wherever.
Yeah.
And then the Christian flag, I would think, would be considered idolatry, but my beliefs aren't everyone's beliefs. So to me, it wouldn't make sense. But overall, yeah, we get the flag loan for a recognized month for Pride Month. It's got an abnormally high rate of suicides in that population. Still a lot of bias, which we've even seen just in some local government aspects. There was some questionable activities trying to get a director of a program removed because they're part of the LGBT community by one of the commissioners.
Yeah.
But yeah, when we got to it and looked at the laws, I think it was Boston had lost a lawsuit, and they were required to fly a Christian flag for a period of time, and it cost a lot of money, and we do not have the budget of Boston, so we would not have been a competitor in that field.
That's too bad. That's, it's sad, especially because it's basically like saying to that community, pride is just being proudful for who you are, and for them to say that, you're not welcome here. That's really how it came across in an unfortunate way. But anyway, I appreciated your effort in getting that going for as long as it was going. Hey, and so hopefully, hey, no apologies. Well, is there anything else that you'd like to add? I normally would go longer than this, but I've got a lot of stuff happening here.
Check on Dad and everything.
Yeah.
Not a lot to add. I think we covered a lot of good ground. I'm just looking forward to the opportunity to take on that job. A lot of what I've been doing in the background, being a representative to the Department of Health and Human Services. I'm the only city representative in the state for that. City County Insurance, I was the first ever representative from the South Coast, which lets me get some insight into what can and can't get us sued, and makes me nervous when I see some folks do certain things in government. And then just the ability I've had to gain traction working with other counties and cities to pursue the litigation against the Oregon State Hospital and Oregon Health Authority to compel them to provide adequate services to folks with mental illness.
Right.
Marion County recently took the first point on the lawsuit, so we've been connecting the counties that were interested in being a party to the lawsuit, cities to sign on amicus, a couple other groups. I was actually just out in Powers last week talking to them about if their attorney would be interested in signing on amicus to that. My plan is to start going to city councils and introducing myself.
Sure.
But yeah, that's my sum.
So I apologize. I don't know why it keeps adding. Wait, if I do this, it'll pop up with a thumbs up somewhere. I don't know why. And I don't know what I was doing that made it do a thumbs down, because I wasn't.
I didn't notice. My phone is small screen.
Okay. Good. Okay. Well, let's close it here. And then if you'd stay on with me for a few minutes afterwards. I just want to thank you again. And let's do it again. And
sounds like a plan. I tell folks if they want to invite me somewhere, if my schedule permits, I'll be there.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Yep.